Welcome to Her Subconscious Blueprint, your no BS space for subconscious healing, bold breakthroughs, and manifestations. I'm your host, Jen Boyd, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, and your new healing hype girl. Okay, let's get into it. Today, I want to talk about something that messes with so many of us. We don't even realize it, and it can wreak havoc on our self-worth. And that is the way we take on other people's perceptions, as if they're truth. I'm talking about those little comments, passive-aggressive jabs, opinions, or projections that people throw at us. And instead of letting them go, we absorb them like they are facts. Like they actually get to decide how we see ourselves. We twist it into our identity. We replay it in our heads like it's a voiceover to our life. Like that one time in 6th grade when somebody said you were bossy during some group work. Listen, maybe you were, but maybe also you just had a vision, okay? Well, the point is that word stuck, and you carried it through high school, into jobs, into relationships, constantly questioning, am I being too much right now? Should I tone it down? And all because of one comment from a 12-year-old with frosted lip gloss obsession and 0 leadership skills. And bam, it's our truth. But here's the thing. Someone else's opinion of you is not your truth. It's their perception. And perception is not reality. Here's a funny but powerful example. If someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, Jen, you're a rainbow elephant," I'd probably laugh. Like, I wouldn't spiral. I wouldn't go home and cry and question my identity. I would brush it off because I know with full clarity that it's just not true. I'm not a rainbow elephant, and I wouldn't even give it a second thought. I would think, well, that's weird, and move on with my day. So why is it that when someone says something like, you're too much, you're selfish, you're controlling, you're bossy, you're not good enough, we hold on to it like it's the gospel? Why does that go straight to our nervous system and make us feel like we have to fix, prove, defend, or over-explain ourselves? We feel it. We carry it. We lose sleep over it. Well, I'll tell you exactly why. It's because of something called negativity bias. Our brains are wired to focus more on what's wrong than what's right. It's a survival mechanism. It's our primitive mind. Back in the day, our ancestors had to remember what berries made them sick and which animals were dangerous. So focusing on the negative kept them alive. But now our brains are doing the same thing with Instagram comments, passive-aggressive texts, and stuff our mom said in 2007, and wondering if Sharon from accounting thinks we're too direct. You could get 20 compliments and 1 criticism, and your brain will obsess over the one negative thing. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're human. But just because it's natural doesn't mean you have to live by it. Here's where this gets even more important. The people handing out these labels, these opinions, these projections, they're showing you where they are in their own journey. If someone calls you too much, what they're really saying is, I've never learned how to hold powerful energy, and your boldness makes me uncomfortable. If someone calls you selfish for setting boundaries, it's often because they are used to people-pleasing or being codependent, and your confidence and clarity threatens their comfort. what they're saying has so much more to do with how they see themselves than it ever has to do with you. It's not personal. It's a pattern. And when you can start seeing it that way, you stop shrinking just to make people feel safe around you. I'll be real with you. For a long time, I made myself small. I softened my voice at times, downplayed my wins, kept my joy on mute, especially around certain family members. I knew if I said something positive about my life, it would be met with a subtle jab or an uncomfortable silence or, why would you do that? And I hated that feeling. So I just stopped sharing. I shrunk, I dimmed, and it leaked into my work, into my friendships, into my relationships, and into the way I saw myself. And then one day I realized I was abandoning myself to be digestible to everyone else, to be easy, to not make waves. And that's not humility, my friends. That is self-betrayal in a cute little outfit. I've studied a lot of what Joe Dispenza teaches, and he says that your personality creates your personal reality. Let me just say that again. Your personality creates your personal reality. And if your personality is shaped by fear, by avoiding rejection, by morphing to fit in, your reality will feel like a constant game of approval chasing. And no amount of external validation will ever make up for the internal discomfort. So, what do you do when someone's comment gets under your skin? Well, first, just pause. Ask yourself, is this true? Do I know this to be true about me? And listen, not from a place of defense, but from curiosity. Because occasionally someone offers insight that is useful, but a lot of times it's just noise. And then second, just consider, where might they be coming from? Not to excuse it, but to take the sting out of it. Most projections come from people who don't even realize they're bleeding on others. Hurt people hurt people. But healed people heal people. So just pause, breathe, and remember that someone's reaction is a mirror of them, not a measure of you. And then third, anchor into your truth. Like literally ask yourself, what do I know about who I am? What do I value? Who am I becoming? This is how you build emotional Teflon. You still feel the things, but the sludge doesn't stick. But when we don't know who we are, we start to collect these labels like they're true. We let them stick to us. We turn someone else's perception into our identity. We start thinking, maybe I am too loud, or maybe I am not enough, or maybe I am too opinionated. Maybe I shouldn't want more. And then we shrink. We play small. We try to fit into someone else's box so we don't trigger their discomfort. And those things might have stuck to you like name tags at a conference you didn't even want to go to. But guess what? You can take those tags off just as easy as they were put on. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that was built around someone else's projections. And here's something else you can do. Something simple, powerful, and energetically cleansing. I call it return to sender. That's right. You can say this is not mine. I return it to sender with love. When someone says something about you that doesn't feel true, when it feels like heaviness, shame, or that energetic sting in your body, that's your cue. Your nervous system is saying, hey, this doesn't belong here. And instead of internalizing it, instead of making it mean something about you, you get to pause and choose. Is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, don't argue with it. You don't over-explain it. You don't analyze it to death. You simply send it back. Energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. Just like returning a letter that was sent to the wrong address. You can literally say out loud or silently, I return this to sender. This energy is not mine. I don't receive it. I release it. This practice is especially powerful for those of us that are empaths, healers, people who grew up in chaos and walking on eggshells, because chances are you've been absorbing energy your entire life. You were the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who could feel when something was off and immediately tried to shift yourself to make it better. She was just surviving. Now we're choosing to thrive. And thriving means having boundaries, not walls, but intentional space that protects your energy, your truth, and your identity. So, how do you start building boundaries that support this? Well, like I've said before, always start small. Because when we make things too big, that is when we quit. So start small. Start internal. A boundary doesn't always mean confrontation or cutting someone off or out of your life, although that might be necessary at times. Sometimes it means not responding to energy that's trying to pull you into your old patterns. Here are a few ways that you can start. Some small, simple ways. If someone gives you unsolicited criticism, just pause, breathe, say in your mind, this isn't mine. You don't owe them any explanation. If a text, a comment, or a conversation leaves you spinning, unplug. Close your eyes, put one hand over your heart, one over your belly, and say, I release what's not mine. I'm safe in my own energy. And then try to visualize yourself surrounded by a golden light, a protective field. Anything that doesn't serve you, it just bounces off you. You absorb only what's rooted in love. And most of all, speak your truth. Setting boundaries means trusting your own voice over someone else's discomfort. It means saying, that doesn't work for me, or I just need space right now, or I'm no longer available for this dynamic. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but stick with it. When you stop absorbing other people's projections, you create space for your own truth to lead. You become sovereign in your energy. And from that place, you become magnetic. Because people can feel when you're rooted, when you're clear, when you're no longer trying to shrink to fit into their comfort zone. So, the next time someone projects something onto you, whether it's subtle or obvious or passive aggressive or well-intended harmful, just pause, feel the feeling, and ask, is this mine? And if not, return it to sender with love, with clarity, with sovereignty. It's simple. It's sacred and it's so, so freeing. Your nervous system will thank you, I promise. Your inner child will thank you. Your higher self will be like, finally, because you are not the container for other people's pain. You are the container for your own healing, your own truth, your own expansion. Don't respond to the bait. Don't explain yourself to someone who is deeply committed to misunderstanding you no matter what. Don't water yourself down for people who wouldn't drink the full version of you anyways. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. And let's be honest, some people will still be uncomfortable with that. And that's okay. Let them be uncomfortable. That is their work. Your job is to be the fullest, freest version of you. My mentor, Marissa Peer, the founder of Rapid Transformational Therapy, teaches that the mind believes what you repeatedly tell it. So if you keep repeating someone else's criticism as your own self-talk, your mind will begin to build your identity around it. But the moment you challenge it is the moment you say, that's not true. You interrupt the pattern. You create space for new beliefs. You don't have to carry other people's discomfort anymore. You don't have to shrink for the comfort of others. And you absolutely do not have to let someone else's comment about you become your internal narrative. So, what if you stopped wearing those labels that aren't yours? What if you sat down and made a list of everything you were told growing up that made you feel less than, and then crossed out the lies and circled the truth? And what if you rewrote your identity? Healing looks like noticing when you get triggered and asking, what part of me believes this? It looks like comforting that part of you, not shaming her. It looks like saying, I see you. You were hurt, but you're safe now. It looks like replacing old stories with new ones. I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to change. I'm allowed to be loved as I am. It also looks like being intentional about what you let in. We can't control what people say, but we can choose what we absorb. Just because someone offers you a label doesn't mean you have to wear it. You can say, no thanks, that's not mine. Return to sender. If you're someone who has a hard time letting go of what others think, I get it. This work is not about never caring. It's about caring about the right things. It's about caring more about how you see yourself than how strangers do. It's about knowing your worth so deep that someone else's judgment feels like background noise instead of a personal attack. If you've ever heard of Esther Hicks, she teaches that the only vibration that matters is your own. When you tune into someone else's judgment, you drop your frequency to match theirs. But when you stay grounded in love, in authenticity, in wholeness, you become magnetic to the things that you want and desire in your life. You attract what's aligned because you're no longer leaking energy trying to be palatable to everyone. So next time someone throws a comment your way that stings a little, just pause. Ask yourself, is this mine? Is this true? Or is this just noise? And then take a breath. Come back to you. Because the more you do this, the less reactive you become. You start to respond instead of react. And that, babe, is where the power lives. In your ability to respond with clarity instead of spiraling from pain. You're allowed to be the version of you that doesn't chase approval, that doesn't shrink for others, and doesn't let every opinion sink in. That version of you, she's coming. Every time you choose truth over perception, you get closer. And if today's episode stirred something in you, I invite you to sit with this. What labels have you been wearing that don't belong to you? And ask, who gave me these labels? Where were they at in their life when they gave me this label? And ask, who do I need to become when I take them off? I hope that you loved this episode and that it sparked something in you. Share it with someone who needs the reminder that they're not the sum of other people's projections. And if you're ready to go deeper into this kind of identity work, you'll find links in the show notes for journal prompts, hypnosis audios, and ways that we can work together. Your healing is powerful. So keep going. I am cheering you on every step of the way. This is Her Subconscious Blueprint, where we don't just chase the dreams, we become them. And remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So go out and be that version today. Much love. I will see you next time.